So during the summer pandemic of 2020, US Netflix was finally blessed with Avatar The Last Airbender coming onto Netflix. And it was just a really good opportunity for both old and new fans to enjoy this show on a platform that is readily available. But the consequences of that is, with new fans clashing with the old fans, a lot of the old fandom discourse just circulates around, yes, we took care of that 15 years ago, and now it's back again. And of course, one of the biggest discourses around the show was the shipping, and specifically, what was the endgame pairing? Despite Avatar being a show about a 12-year-old boy learning all of the elements in order to save the world from a dictator, the shipping wars were probably bigger than the 100-Year War itself. Even before the show came to its conclusion, many fans were already split between the two pairings in question, Katang versus Zuatara. And, well, suffice to say, if you were a Zuatara shipper and you made it to the end of the series, you may have been a little disappointed that Zuko and Katara didn't end up together. And that's exactly why we're here today, because one fan comic artist decided to make her own ending. It's called How I Became Yours, a Zuatara ending to Avatar The Last Airbender. Kind of. Before I begin, I just want everyone to know this is not going to contain any character bashing, ship bashing, or even bashing of the creator of How I Became Yours. This is honestly just kind of an analysis of why this comic came to be, the fan reaction behind it, and just wanted to talk about this really interesting webcomic that a lot of new fans actually don't mention, and I think it's something that should be discussed. And yes, at the time, people are gonna call this cringeworthy, and it's a lot that even Zuatara fans don't want to look into. I just think this is a fascinating way to create your own ending when your OTP doesn't become canon. People write fanfiction, some people do comics, some people just ignore the canon. How It Became Yours is a 200-page webcomic of how they become canon. Kind of. I keep saying kind of because it's an odd story. Keep in mind, though, that this comic came out right after the series ended, so the Avatar comics, which I think came out 2011 and 2012, as well as the Legend of Korra, have nothing to do with this. This is all only contained within the lore of Avatar The Last Airbender and its runtime. As I said, the fandom back in 2008 was actually already very polarizing regarding the two main ships. I was at the San Diego Comic Con 2008, or was it 2009, finale panel where before they talk about their process in working on the series, the creators actually showed the last two episodes. And as we know in the last episode, it ends with Katara and Aang kissing. I remember half the audience booing and the other half cheering. And then Bryke made fun of Zuatara, so if that doesn't show what side they're on the ship wars. But regardless, even back then, there was already the ship war, and it had once again returned in the year 2020, and oh boy. In all honesty, this is where fanfiction comes into play. As I said in my other video, the reason why people write fanfiction is for a various amount of reasons. Someone doesn't like how a certain plotline goes, they write their own version. Someone wanted this character to be explored more, they explore it in fanfiction. Your OTP wasn't canon, you write fanfiction to make it canon in your writing style. And there were many Zuatara fanfics even before the series ended, and there were some who were writing the series in order for Zuatara to have a more present appearance than in the canon. And that's totally fine, that's valid, that's what you actually should be doing when you're disappointed in something, is maybe find a creative outlet to let it out. How It Became Yours is one of the many fanfics that actually took it a step further and made into a web comic. And again, 200 pages of this web comic. But why did this one really stand out? Once you see these screenshots, I think you will know why. Because this lives in infamy. A lot of Zuatara shippers at the time actually really did not like this comic. A lot of non-Zuatara shippers kind of felt bad that Zuatara shippers had to deal with this comic. And looking back on it now, it is honestly just amazing that it was made in the first place. But why does it live in infamy? So here we go. Okay, this is going to be my super abridged summary, but if you want a more coherent run, I recommend going on Bad Webcomics Wikia and look up How I Became Yours. They have a much better written summary. If you want to read the comic yourself, I think a Tumblr page has actually archived all of the original comics and put it in order. I'll put in the link in the description below, but they actually posted every single one of these, and if you got through it, I think you're lying. How I Became Yours, written by Jackie Diaz, also known as Waterbender 196, was a webcomic published back on DeviantArt, and it was a story focused on 3 non-canonical pairings, first being Zuko Katara, second being Toph and Aang, and third being Zuko and Azula. Yeah, not sure about the last one where that came out of, but you know, here we are. And before I actually begin the whole summary, I may mention this a few times. For some reason, Katara, Toph, and Sokka are referred to as princess and princesses, which is just weird to me because I thought Toph, and she's rich, but she's not royalty rich. I think her best social status would be like a socialite. Her dad was a businessman, so not royalty, but they were rich. And as for Sokka and Katara, the Southern Water Tribe didn't follow the exact same hierarchy as the Northern Water Tribe, with their dad being the chief. Sokka and Katara weren't exactly royalty, compared to the North where Princess Yue is called a princess because her dad is chief of the Water Tribe, or the Northern Water Tribe. So just gonna keep that in mind. They are often referred to as prince and princesses, but they're not. Anyway, so the story takes place 4 years after the original series ends. Katara and Toph are walking over to a gravestone, and it's a gravestone for someone named Kuzan. And Katara is crying, and Toph is like, I wish I could console my friend, but I'm really bad at feelings and I don't know how to help her. And you're thinking, why is Katara mourning over Kuzan, the death of Aang's friend from the Fire Nation, over 100 years ago? Well, then we flash back to 4 years back, so basically a few months after the original series ended, and Katara is very pregnant. If you remember, the series ends when she's 15, so yes, she is 15 and pregnant. I guess they're doing a baby shower celebration because she's asking Sokka if he sent out all the invitations, like to Aang, to the Northern Water Tribe, to their friends in the Earth Kingdom, but made sure that Sokka did not send a letter to the Fire Nation. Sokka reassures her that everything's good, but Toph can tell he's lying. Then Sokka confesses, yes, he did actually send only one letter to the Fire Nation, to Zuko. Katara flips out because Zuko's not supposed to know this, but then Sokka says, well, as a man, I know what it's like to be in love, and I would want to know where my baby is. And Katara's like, good point, but I hope it doesn't start a war. So yeah, Zuko is Katara's baby daddy, but the reason why she kept it from him is because Zuko is actually married to Mai. Which is a little bit confusing because within that flashback, there's also another flashback where she and Zuko had kissed, and I think this was supposed to imply instead of the endgame kiss of Katara and Aang, it was actually Zuko and Katara, and then Katara gave Zuko her necklace, which that's her mother's necklace. Why would she give it to a guy who she's not gonna be seeing? That's really weird. And also, Zuko kept the necklace even though he's married to another woman? So we cut back to the present time. Katara and Toph are talking again, and no, I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm not reading that. But then we cut to the Fire Nation. Zuko is writing a letter to Katara, wishing her a happy birthday, but also wondering, hey, how come you haven't answered any of my letters for a while? And then Uncle Iroh comes in with Suki, except it's not Suki, it just looks like Suki. Well, this is a handmaiden who has some very important news. As it turns out, Mai had been intercepting letters between Zuko and Katara for the past 3 years, including the baby shower invitation that revealed that Zuko is the father of her child. And I won't lie, this is the kind of melodrama that I'm actually really into, but you can see it's not exactly the most well executed, so it's kind of like, I like it, but Meanwhile, Toph is talking about her feelings for Aang, I guess, because they're a pairing, but come to reading, I realize they're not really a pairing. They're just kind of there to remind you, like, oh, Toph and Aang end up happy. They're honestly not important, and if Toph and Aang weren't in this story, it wouldn't have mattered. So Zuko confronts Mai about the intercepted letters, and this is where I was personally confused. Everyone who talked about this talked about how Zuko, like, physically hits Mai. but from the way I saw it in the comic panels, I thought he grabbed her by her shirt and threw her on the ground, which either way, she ends up on the ground, either way it's assault. I think that kind of shows, though I can't exactly tell with this art style, but point is, Zuko goes completely out of character, throws her to the ground, accuses her betraying the Fire Nation, and then banishes her. I guess initially Zuko only married Mai as his duties to the Fire Nation in order to keep a fire bloodline, but turns out Mai had lied about that. She told Zuko that he had to keep a Fire Nation child because if it was known his child is like half Water Tribe, half Fire Nation, that can start a civil war, which was really weird because although Ozai and his forefathers did have this whole contingency plan to destroy the world, it was never exactly taboo to marry, like, interracially. So why would Zuko, a symbol of peace between all nations, marrying someone from the Water Tribe cause a civil war, especially that's what he was going for, and why would it cause a civil war that he got someone pregnant, a girl he had consensual sex with? So anyway, point is, Mai lied, Zuko believed it, and here we are. But anyway, we see that 3 years earlier that Zuko actually did send Katara a birthday present, a basket of fruits, but the fruits were poisoned and she loses the baby. So Zuko didn't actually send the fruit, it was Mai who intercepted the letters. And with how pregnant Katara was, poisoning fruit, wouldn't she need an emergency C-section? I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying, dang. And you know what? That makes sense why she's mourning the loss of Kuzan. She named their kid Kuzan after Aang's friend? Sure, why not? Meanwhile, in the present, we see Sokka wandering around the Earth Kingdom all alone for some reason when he hears something in an alleyway. He looks and sees Azula, who is tied, gagged, and stabbed. Chapter 2. So I guess Chapter 2 starts that it's Katara's debutante, her 18th birthday, that is looking like a royal, like, party. And the funny thing about this is that everyone, especially all the ladies, are in these, like, extravagant ball gown dresses. And I get it's supposed to be a formal party, but even in the Avatar world, which, you know, is inspired by Asian and Southeast Asian culture, ball gowns weren't, like, you know, the staple of their fashion, especially for high class. And you can even see in the show, Toph, who is high class, doesn't really wear ball gowns. But, you know, maybe the author just really liked ball gowns. So, you know, I could maybe excuse that. But it's her 18th birthday, everyone comes. This is the one time we see Ty Lee, who is just saying happy birthday. And Aang comes back from doing whatever he was doing and says, Toph, I love you. Which, dude, way to upstage Katara's birthday. So they get together, and Zuko comes to the birthday. He declares his love for Katara, and they kiss. But even after they kiss, Zuko and Katara end up going to the balcony to talk for a bit. She's wondering why Zuko hasn't answered any of her messages. Or messages, what is this? She's asking why he hasn't replied to any of her letters. He had to explain that Mai had been intercepting them this whole time, so he had no idea what was going on with her for the past 3 years. She reveals that she lost their kid, and Zuko's devastated that he couldn't be there with her for it. But you know what? You two are like in your 20s now. It's fine. You guys can, like, you have all this time now to reconnect. And that's what they do. And if you're wondering at this point how they got together, there's about 5 chapters, and again, 200 pages. We're not done yet. So Azula wakes up, and of course she has amnesia because, you know, convenient amnesia plot. And when she's wondering where she is because she's being well taken care of, Sokka holds a sword to her throat and asks, what are you doing here, murderer? And she's like, the prince who saved me. But Sokka's pretty angry at her because of, you know, everything Azula did in her past. And Azula ends up crying. She says she has no idea what Sokka's talking about. And Toph confirms this by listening to her lie, and she says she is not lying, which is funny because Azula is the only person who can get away with lying even through Toph. Toph admitted in the show that she can't tell when Azula's lying, so wouldn't you still be wary even if Toph says she's not lying, but, you know, whatever. So Sokka basically just throws at her that she was a psychopath and how she tried to kill them all, and Azula gets so sad she ends up running into the gardens. She runs into Katara, and Katara's like, oh my gosh, why are you crying? And Azula's like, because I'm a murderer! And then Katara consoles her, and they become friends. And it's from this point I just realized, where are they living? I think this is their palace in the Earth Kingdom, because this is Katara's garden, but I never got from the ending of the show that they were living in the Earth Kingdom. I thought they were just visiting Uncle Iroh's tea shop. So yeah, everyone apparently lives in high-class Ba Sing Se now, which is funny. Again, this was created before the Avatar comics come out. As we know in the comics, everyone actually kind of goes their separate ways for a bit, but still keep in contact. Katara and Sokka go back to the South Pole to, rebuild. Toph is in the Earth Kingdom. Aang is kind of going a bit around. Zuko's in the Fire Nation, but everyone is in the Earth Kingdom except for Zuko, who then comes to the Earth Kingdom, I guess. So just deal with it. And oh my gosh, if there wasn't any more word vomit before, it is just word vomit now. I didn't read any of this, but just know that after we realize that Azula can never get her memories back, she and Sokka start growing closer together, and in a way it's kind of drawn cutely, if not for the fact that that's not really Azula anymore, it's just some girl who's not Suki falling in love with Sokka. And we also see that Katara and Zuko are doing well now, as well as Aang and Toph. There are sex scenes in this, which I guess, to be fair, they are in their 20s, so that's fine. And the sex scenes are done kind of tastefully. It's like you don't see anything, except I also don't know what positions they're in. And there's no dialogue, which is why I actually kind of like it. There are no word text boxes, so I don't have to read anything. But there's still drama, because May teams up with Ozai and some kind of Prince OC, I don't know, like he's also a prince of the Fire Nation, I guess, in order to kill Katara and Zuko, because May is still very mad that Katara stole her man. And then I guess they ambush Katara's home in the Earth Kingdom, and a fight breaks out. Azula ends up getting stabbed, and I think Katara bloodbends May to death, which, yikes, Katara, I thought we weren't gonna ever do that again, but whatever. So Azula is hurt very badly, and the only way to heal her is to get her to the Northern Water Tribe and put her in the, spirit water, to which I'm like, even from the Earth Kingdom and to the Northern Water Tribe, even with Appa, is gonna take forever. Azula should be dead. Azula should not be alive for that trip. But she's alive. They put her into the spirit pond, and she comes out as a Yue 2.0. Yue, I am so sorry, and no, I don't know why she's Yue. Then there's an epilogue that shows all the characters and their kids, and they live happily ever after. Or do they? Because there's actually a sequel. It's called Rise of the Agni Army, which actually sounds like a really cool title, but it only ended up getting one chapter before the author ended up just never updating again. And I think it's supposed to be about their kids. I didn't really read it because it's not Zuko and Katara anymore, so I didn't really care. But hey, she created a sequel, and that's honestly a really cool title that I think they should get the rights to, because I'm just saying. So that's it. That is the abridged summary, but we are not done yet. Let's talk about the art. So I'm not really a good artist myself, so this one I feel like is a bit harder to critique. Just know the art, if you can tell, is not really the best. I do want to give credit though that I think she is a talented artist to some regard, but I think this webcomic was a bit out of her range, which is why the art ended up as it looks. Because it resulted in one of the biggest DeviantArt controversies that anyone can do, tracing. Okay, like I'm not joking about that though, like you really shouldn't trace art, especially if you're doing it for profit or trying to build a portfolio and pretending it's your artwork when in reality you trace it from someone. But oh my gosh, majority of this comic is traced. I think with how big this project was, tracing was kind of the only option she had in order to churn out as many pages as fast as she could. But the first issue with that is it was very obvious she traced, and at the time a lot of people did point out all the traced pages, but she insisted that she drew this all originally, no references, no tracing. And Bad Wikia's webcomics begs to differ. Some of those are clearly traced, if not from the show itself, from other mediums and other mangas that she just, took. And if not for the tracing, she just reused the same image and the same stilted pose for several different panels, either zooming in on one aspect of the drawing or zooming out. And again, I think it was just a way to save time for herself. It just doesn't look good. And I think because of that as well, that's why we see a lot of giant text boxes. The text boxes actually cover up a lot of the art pieces, which you can tell were obviously traced from another panel of hers. But another problem with that is the text boxes hurt. I can't read that. I'm not going to try to read that. I skipped over a lot because I saw that giant text and I thought, I'm not reading that. What wasn't drawn was also hyper realistically photoshopped in, which is really weird. You can see here the bowl of fruit is just a Photoshop stock photo of a bowl of fruit, and the turtle ducks is a Photoshop of a turtle and a duck. There are turtle ducks in the actual show. Why didn't you trace the turtle ducks there? They have scenes. And it's because of this I kind of wonder, why didn't she just write this as a fanfic and maybe upload some art with the fanfic to go along with it? I know a lot of authors commission artists to draw scenes of their fanfic. But then I realize now that wouldn't have been a good idea because, man, the writing isn't great either. Many of us guess she didn't actually proofread or have an editor once she uploaded this because there is a lot of spelling, grammatical, and sentence structure errors that, a passover would have caught. There's also just so much being said that, maybe no one wanted to catch it and just wanted to upload it. What the hell is a charred monster? We never figured that out. I don't know where in the comic that is, but that is something everyone brings up when talking about How I Became Yours. It's why I listened to the first chapter as a dramatical reading, but when you listen to that video, even the readers get very confused about who's talking, how long the sentences are. They just stop talking altogether at some point because it's just too much being said. And because the art itself is very stilted and the panels aren't really dynamic like most comics, putting a regular text box was probably the only way for her to convey dialogue and inner thoughts. But another problem with that is it was actually very hard to tell who was talking at a time. I think would have been easier if she color coded each box so we know who was talking between Sokka, Katara, and Toph, or use different fonts maybe so we can tell who was talking. But whatever. A lot of people also criticized the writing of Katara and Azula, that they had been reduced to Mary Sue's, and I agree with that to a certain extent. Part of me is just kind of annoyed how much Mary Sue has been overused and doesn't have the same meaning as it used to. But the problem with that too is I don't know what Katara and Azula's personalities are. Even a Mary Sue to an extent kind of has a personality, or a personality in which you as the reader can kind of project onto. Katara and Azula don't have that, really. They're both just reduced to teary-eyed women who are either crying for something, crying because they don't have a boyfriend, or just crying. And Zuko. Oh my god, what this author did to Zuko. This is actually a huge problem considering that Zuko and Katara are the main characters of this story. So, one, Katara was already written to not have a personality at all, but Zuko, oh boy, I don't know what Zuko is. First, it's just really weird to me that Zuko and Katara were a couple, but then he's choosing May over her? And again, like I said before, he was lied to about the political state of the world that he had to marry within the Fire Nation, but he was still emotionally cheating on her with Katara. He was trying to seek out Katara the whole time. And later on when he and May are fighting, he says that he even tried to love her but couldn't. Did you try? The minute you two got married, you were still trying to send Katara messages and booty calls. Dude, you didn't try at all for this. And the fact that when he finds out May had been intercepting his letters and he got physically violent with her, that just ruined 3 seasons of development. It ruined his entire character arc. And here's my whole I love Zuko rant because you know what? Although I'm mad at the author, a lot of you Zuko and Zutara aunties are doing this too. Again, it just comes full circle. We went past this a long time ago, so here I am to set it straight, or make it gay, I don't know. Zuko has always been a compassionate person, and that's why his father saw him as weaker. He tried to get Zuko thrown off a cliff when he was a baby because he thought Zuko wasn't a firebender, and the only reason why that didn't happen is because his mom begged for Zuko not to die. And he grew up a way more compassionate person than Azula, which again, why the dad chose Azula over Zuko. Then Zuko, trying to win the approval of his father, starts doing bad things in order to get that. He realizes later, wow, I was a huge jerk. Why am I trying to get the approval of someone who clearly abuses me? But realizes too, that's not an excuse for how he treated everyone else. Which is why his redemption arc for Avatar in season 3 was so important. He's atoning for his mistakes that he inflicted, even though he's a victim of abuse himself. And that's what makes his character arc beautiful. So the fact that the author had him go back resorting to physical violence because he got angry at someone, the fact that many Zuko and Zutara aunties keep saying, oh, he's a colonizer, he's an abuser. No, he's not. He's literally not. He's a victim of abuse who fell into this horrible cycle, broke out of that cycle, and is now using his power to do good. He's a symbol of peace. He and Aang are the symbol of pieces. He's showing that he's a new Fire Nation, that they can help the world instead of conquer it. He has the Avatar's trust. So can you guys get that through your head that Zuko is a good person now? He's not making excuses for his past. He's just fixing what he hurt. Anyway, so no, Zuko definitely wouldn't have hurt May that way, nor do I feel like he's a cheater. I'm pretty sure that is done for melodramatic purposes, and like I said, I'm a melodrama freak, I like that stuff, but when you do Zuko dirty like that, that's where I draw the line. Sokka is mostly there for eye candy, which, I mean, that's great. Sokka's hot. That's it. And Aang is even in this a lot less, which is kind of a good thing. Toph's role is really just to be the shoulder that Katara sobs on. All she does is either talk about how she wants to help Katara, or talk about like why she hasn't confessed her feelings to Aang yet. That's about it. And from this, if you've actually sought out the comic and tried to read all of it, and I mean all of it, please let me know. I still think you're lying, but hey, if you have the time, we're still in a pandemic at the time of filming this, so you know what? Do it. Read the comic. Let me know. Let me know any other grammatical errors you are finding in that. So seeing as I read this back in 2008 and the original DeviantArt page is actually now deleted, I am basing all of this mostly off of my memory, but I remember a lot of fans really hated this comic, including Zuatara fans. From the bad writing, the really bad art, and the out-of-characterness of, everyone, I get that the author was trying to give us a Zuatara ending, but unfortunately this just wasn't it. Nowadays, most anti-Zutara people who do remember this comic actually use it against Zutara fans just to rub it in our faces that Zutara wasn't canon. But, good on Jackie Diaz for making this monstrosity. Instead of, sending hate, death threats to Zutara fans, she just made her comic so it could be canon in her heart. Even though the execution wasn't great, her intention was to make Zutaras happy, and you know what? She dedicated herself to that. That's awesome. So I can't exactly say, even though I just said instead of sending docs and death threats, I don't actually know what her demeanor was online. From the time I was reading this, I only remember her defending her tracing and making the comic. So I can't say for sure if she was an anti like we see nowadays. Some people did speculate she may have been anti Meiko and anti Katang, but I don't exactly have evidence of her sending hate towards those kind of shippers. But I have to give credit where credit is due. And instead of complaining to the creators that Zuatara wasn't canon, she just made her own comic, and that's pretty great. And I think that's also a lesson to learn. I recently saw some tweet about how more people are mad that Aaron Levi? I haven't watched Attack on Titan in 6 years. That Aaron Levi has more, I guess, fanfics than Armin Hammer and Levi? Aaron? Yeah, that pairing. And the reaction has been, okay, so make your own. And that's really it. If you're mad that your favorite pairing doesn't have enough stuff, it's time for you to curate that. You start writing your own fanfics. You start, making art. And if you can't do that, commission someone to do that. Rather than just sitting complaining about other shippers, get up there and do something about it. Overall, How I Became Yours is a mess. And I love it. It's a train wreck. I'm gonna keep watching it. I'm gonna keep rereading it. It's just really funny. And if the Harry Potter fandom has My Immortal as kind of their fic, Avatar fandom, specifically, Avatar The Last Airbender, we have How I Became Yours. It definitely shouldn't be weaponized as a haha Zutara's like you didn't get what you want. It should just be a reminder, if you didn't like something in canon, it's just time for you to do something about it. Either let it go because in the end it's all fictional, it doesn't matter, or make something up on your own. Even if it's this. And hey, if any of my Katara cosplay friends want to do a cosplay from How I Became Yours, just let me know. I will happily be Prince Zuko to your ball gown Katara. Did she draw all those ball gown dresses herself? Some people said she did, others speculate she also traced, but who knows. And that's it. Thank you guys for listening to this historical relic of the Avatar fandom. And you know what? I miss these days. I miss these days where someone can just dedicate all their time to this instead of what we have now. So yeah, if you like it, leave a comment down below and let me know if you're interested in hearing Avatar Korra's version of How It Became Yours. It's not exactly fun, but there was an infamous fic that went around Tumblr specifically. So yeah, bye!